It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, so Tuesday, primary day in the state of Wyoming, where a lot of our elections are already settled. Democrat National Convention started last night, and there's a whole lot more going on.
Today's show is sponsored by Muskrat Fur Leg Warmers. Their fur, their leg warmers, they are nasty.
The good news is there's no more political candidates coming on, so it's just you and me. So there'll be a lot of open phones today. I'll just get that done early.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Now, get to day one or night one of the Democrat convention in just a moment, and I'm not going to have a whole lot on it because it's actually pretty basic stuff. What I did see last night, in fact, it's continuing in reruns on the ridiculously large television that I have next to me here. But before I go to that, brand new sponsor to the program. This guy smells rotted old mobile homes. So if you want to buy a rotted old mobile home, he's your man.
Hi, I'm Robert Lee. I own Coleman Liquidation. I sell mobile homes. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to tell it just like it is. These are mobile homes, not mansions. They come in two pieces. If that's what you're looking for, that's what I got. They're used. Some of them have stains. We cover that up. She decorates them. She sells them. These guys help me move. Bouncer in Birmingham hit me in the face with a crescent wrench 5 times. And my wife's boyfriend broke my jaw with a fence post. So if you don't buy a trailer from me, it ain't going to hurt my feelings. So come on down to Coleman Liquidation and get yourself a home. Or don't. I don't care.
We were always looking for new sponsors for the program. So, okay. Here is the beginning of the Democrat National Convention, and they had a lot of speakers come up on the first day. And I didn't watch it yesterday. I was sleeping. But as I get up this morning, I find, first off, they pushed Joe Biden all the way till midnight. And in the speech he gave, he was obviously jacked on Red Bull or something like that. Wasn't very a long speech, but they kept him way past midnight. Well, and there's not a lot of people watching live at that point. Most of it, midnight East Coast time, basically. So most people are already asleep. That was really late. Not a lot of people are going to see that speech. I wonder if they were just worried about him. I'm not sure. There's been a lot of speculation about that. When I got to work this morning, which, as you know, is a little before 2 o'clock in the morning, and the rerun of it had just come up on the television here. So while I was working on some things, I was listening to it, and I didn't last long. It did not take long for Joe to start repeating lies that he had been debunked a long time ago, even lies about things Trump had said that Trump never said. And as soon as he started getting into this, I just said, forget it. Besides, most of what he was saying, no substance whatsoever to it. It was really just glossing over, and we're going to do all of these wonderful things, and Kamala Harris will take you to do all of these wonderful things. I did notice that no matter what speaker was up there, every single Democrat in the room was handed a sign to hold up. No independent thinking there. Everybody was asked to hold up. This person speaking, hold up this sign. And they were trying to make Joe out to be this wonderful person who had served his country so well over his many decades in office, from being a senator to being vice president to being president. But if you follow the career and the life of Joe Biden, you know it's a whole long list, many decades of lies and just being a naive idiot most of the time, and corruption. He should have been run out of office probably 4 or 5 decades ago. He got in there in the 1970s, and he's been there ever since, and he's never changed. The first 2 times he tried to run for president, he had to drop out for the lies he was telling, and he continues that to this day. But this was supposed to be his big send-off, his big farewell.
The Villages, America's friendliest hometown. The Villages, America's friendliest hometown.
Big high note.
Villages.
Yeah, if you're wondering what I'm playing there, I've been playing this for decades because I've been picking on Joe Biden for many decades. I've been playing this for decades. That was Joe on a golf course somewhere, and he was drunk. That beer cart or liquor cart that they drive around to sell it passed him by just a few too many times, and he had a bunch. So he's stumbling around as he's singing. He's trying to clap, and he's missed his own hands a couple of times. But he's trying to clap and sing, and he's trying to dance a little bit, and it's not working out for him. So that was many years ago, a drunk Joe Biden on the golf course.
The Villages.
And he's going to be off into retirement pretty soon. So the Democrats were trying to make it out to be that this was a great man. Thank you, Joe, for all the wonderful things you've done, et cetera, et cetera. Even though it was the Democrats who ran him off. And they should have actually run him off a long time ago, even when he first ran against Trump, because he already had dementia then. And I can go back. In fact, I think I will, now that I'm thinking about it. Let me go back into my files here, because I wonder, as Joe is leaving, this to me, there's something momentous about this. This goes all the way back, this file I have here, many decades to my career in talk radio, where I've been picking on Joe Biden even when he was a senator because low-hanging fruit. Let's go back to 1988.
There is one less candidate in the race for the presidency tonight. Delaware Senator Joseph Biden dropped out of the hunt today, saying the disclosures about his plagiarism in law school and his exaggerations about his academic record made it impossible for him to continue.
I do it with incredible reluctance, and it makes me angry. I'm angry with myself for having been put myself in the position of having to make this choice.
The Delaware Democrat is the second candidate to be forced from the race by questions of character and integrity. Gary Hart dropped out.
Twice Biden tried to run for president in the early years, and twice he had to drop out because of lies that he told. And this is very typical of the many decades that Biden was in office, which is why low-hanging fruit for a guy like me, easy pickings. I almost felt lazy picking on Biden over the decades.
The new questions stem from taped remarks of Biden during an April campaign appearance in New Hampshire.
I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. Went back to law school and, in fact, ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School. I mean, this guy comes off this whole thing as a flyweight.
Now Biden says Newsweek is right. His memory had failed him.
His memory had failed. Way back then, his memory had failed? His memory had failed. Now, this is something very typical that Biden would do. Whenever someone confronted him and cornered him and they knew he was caught, what he would do is just blurt out something that sounded really impressive. Oh, yeah, well, you should have seen where I graduated in college, boy. And then just made all of that up, which sounded really impressive until someone bothered to fact check him, which, by the way, they weren't supposed to do. And then to say something like, well, my memory failed me. Really? Did that? All of what he just rambled on about, did that sound like his memory just failed him? or he was just making it up. Right. Well, obviously. But this is who the Democrats call a great man, and thank you, Joe, for all the wonderful things that you've done. All right. Well, my answer is good riddance, Joe. Should have happened a long time ago. Now, since he's been suffering from dementia for quite some time now, I'll say what I said before about him. What the family needs to do, because I don't wish that on anyone, is he likes to be on the beach with his toes in the sand. You know, the beach that's supposed to be underwater now because of climate change, that beach, and under an umbrella, and he loves ice cream. So sit him there by the beach under the umbrella and hand him all the ice cream he wants. And he likes chocolate chip. And just let him enjoy himself until his mind eventually fades away, which is not going to be a whole lot longer.
The Villages, America's friendliest hometown. The Villages, America's friendliest hometown. The Villages.
Well, that image is going to stick with you all day. Take Glenn anywhere with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
6:24 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Some people out there have really had their coffee this morning. Here's Jim and Casper. When it talk about Joe Biden finally retiring, we're finally rid of this corrupt idiot and liar. It's about time. So I was saying that he just wants to go and sit under an umbrella and have ice cream on the beach, which I think is fine. I just go ahead and do that. Jim says, let me see, don't forget he wants kids to rub the blonde hair on his legs. But that'll probably make him happy. Then he says, pertaining to the vegan ads, well, plants and bugs have feelings too. Murderers go carnivores. Okay, so that's just Jim this morning, who I think has had too much coffee. Let me see, Chet and Yoder. Tell the world in Wyoming, even our chickens carry guns. I will tell people that. I think it's worth it. Ran in Fort Danger. Glenn, that drunken clip of Joe Biden singing sounds more like Tim Stack. I don't know who Tim Stack is, but if he sounds like a drunk Joe Biden singing about the villages on the golf course, you're absolutely right. I tried. While I was working here this morning, I kept tuning in, because it's up on the television next to me, to hear what happened at the Democrat convention last night. And I kept, after a minute or less, going, all right, never mind. Because once again, didn't matter who the speaker was. They really weren't saying anything of importance. I didn't find any actual substance there. And when they did talk about the Republicans, and I know the Republicans certainly have their problems. They're problem people, and just in general, their problems. So the Republicans are not exactly innocent either. But the Democrats just stood there and lied about what the Republicans think and what the Republicans said. And I'm not going to listen to it. So I just kept tuning out going, sorry, I can't. I just can't. But that's what the convention is going to be. Here's what I was saying yesterday, I think, is the opportunity for you Trump supporters out there. You want your guy to win? Here's what he does. First off, again, quit with all the name calling here. Sound like the adult in the room. And actually offer plans that work. Okay. Don't just get. I listened to some speakers last night at the Democrat convention yelling, you want freedom? Well, I do, yeah, which is why I won't vote Democrat, because I actually want government out of my life. I want less government. I want almost non-existent government. So, yes, I want freedom. So if I want freedom, I certainly can't vote Democrat, because that's not what they're about. They're about more and more government interference. So I can't. Sorry, can't vote for you guys. I have to go for somebody else. If Trump were to just sound more professional and offer solutions, which he has in many cases, offer a platform. If you'd like to see his platform, go to his website. He's got it all laid out. Stick to that. Offer the American people hope and a plan. and a good plan. The Democrats keep lying and saying, well, Trump, he just cares about himself and giving more tax breaks to billionaires, which is not what Trump ever did. When Trump gave tax breaks out, and by the way, the Democrats want to tax you more. When Trump gave the tax breaks out, he made sure everybody got them, and that is a fact. So stick to that, Donald. Stick to that. Just lay out, here's what I plan to do, and stay away from all of the personal attacks and the drama, and I think he'll do absolutely just fine. Don't get sucked into the drama. Speaking of drama, when we look at, and I'll get into this in the next segment here, take a look outside the Democrat convention, and you want to talk drama. Oh, dear Lord. Now, they haven't even gotten warmed up yet, but the protesters are out there. And it is not pretty. It's actually pretty ugly, if you want to look at it that way. And it's just going to get a whole lot worse. Now, I don't know if it's going to be as bad as the Democrat convention in Chicago back in the 60s, but it has the potential, so we'll wait to see what happens. Coming up on local news, after local news update on your weather forecast, and you and I get back into it, I'll talk a little bit about what's happening outside the Democrat convention. And then the extended forecast with Don Day. There's more to talk about this morning than just the Democrat convention. It is primary election day in Wyoming. This is the day when most people will show up and vote. So we'll talk about that, among other things. Wake up, Wyoming.
Download the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Listen anywhere and chat live with Glenn during the show on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, one more thing about the Democrat convention. We have a lot of other things to cover this morning. So I'm watching what's happening outside the convention. Hadn't got a whole lot of coverage yet, but the protesters are out there. And they're definitely nasty. Now I'm watching, you got to get away from the legacy news media to see what's really going on. And I watch a lot of independent reporters get out there who just have their own channel on X, formerly Twitter, and other social media, and some podcasters, stuff like that. So they grab their cameras and microphones, and they go out to the protesters outside the Democrat convention and just start asking questions. Boy, talk about some nasty people. Not the reporters. No. One guy would just walk up to various people holding up whatever sign and just ask them a question about their sign. And his question wasn't nasty. He's just asking for clarification. So what exactly do you mean? What are your thoughts on what you're trying to say here? If you can explain it to me so I understand. And, man, this guy would just get screamed at and cussed out and get out of my face. And it was just, as I'm watching one after the next from various independent reporters, I'm noticing what we have outside the Democrat convention is mostly just people with mental disorders. And I mean that exactly the way I just said it. Now, you want to protest, you can go ahead, but what the hell? They're even already trying to cut down gates that were put up. Police officers go walking by, they scream and cuss at police officers. It's already horrible what they're doing. And then the points of view they're offering up. We can certainly get into that. And they want the Democrats inside that convention hall to be held accountable and start doing what they think is the right thing on so many different issues. And my thought is, well, if you hate what the Democrats are doing that much in there, here's a thought. Are you going to vote Democrat? I think they probably will because they're afraid of Trump. But, honestly, you could vote Green Party if you wanted. But it's already getting nasty out there. Now, how bad does it get? I don't know. Because we had a time, go ahead and ask the vice presidential nominee, this one, his own city was burning because of protesters like this. And he refused to do anything about it. They ought to just love him as the VP pick. So here's a guy who, as the city burned, a major city in his state, did nothing about it. This was back in 2020. So how bad do you think it'll get at the Democrat convention during the course of this week? I don't know the answer to that because nothing's happened yet other than just a lot of really nasty people have shown up. But I worry about it. I really do worry about how bad this can get, knowing who has shown up. And we know these people. We know what they're capable of. And so it really worries me. But on the other hand, it does make, for those who want to do more damage to the Democrat Party and drive voters to Trump, let them. Let them do what they do. And let the Democrats inside be afraid to do anything about it or not want to stop them, for that matter. And watch as more voters get driven to Trump. So I don't think that the people outside that are just starting in their protests understand that their actions, not just here but in other places they've been, doesn't drive people toward their cause. It drives people away. Nobody wants to be associated with that. People who in most cases would agree with the protesters just can't anymore because they get so extreme and so violent. People just can't anymore, and so they turn away. So we'll have to wait and see how bad it gets. I know we keep hearing the last time the Democrats had a convention in Chicago was in the 60s. Remember how the riots were, for those who know your history, how bad it got with the riots. And that comparison is continually made. So I understand it could get that bad. I fully expect it to. But I don't know until it actually happens. And again, I'll say, if these protesters want to drive people away from the Democrat Party on Election Day and toward Trump, and I'm talking about the moderates who haven't made up their minds yet, this is absolutely the perfect way to do it. And it would be a great time during the debate. There's supposed to be at least one debate between Kamala Harris and Trump. During the debate, it'd be a great time for Trump to bring that up and point out how bad it was and how good it could be. It's an opportunity for him anyway. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
Almond milk? Who bought almond milk? That's not a thing, is it? I mean, you can't get milk from almonds. Almonds don't even have udder.
Yep, there you have it. A new level of crazy. And you heard it here first. Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
6:48 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to Laramie to talk to David Settle, who's sitting in for Frank Gambino. Okay, David. Sometimes somebody puts up a sign next to another sign, and it's just unfortunate. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, I'm following you.
Yep. So here is a sign. It's at a bus stop, and it's just on some road in England somewhere, and it's for McDonald's. And they're advertising the sandwich, which I wouldn't mind trying. It's a chicken sandwich, but it's called the McCrispy. Sounds pretty good. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Right next to that is a street sign pointing the way to the crematorium.
Oh.
And so people began to protest that maybe might have been a bad location for that.
Yeah,
okay.
Maybe.
Now here's another sign. I love stuff like this. Here is somebody who decided to name their cafe. They have a cat that, is a real prankster. And so they named it the Naughty Cat Cafe. That sounds like fun, right?
That can go bad in so many ways.
So they had to put a sign under that sign that said, not a strip club.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now, sometimes it's just a matter of where do you put the punctuation. That can mean,
right.
Or do you put punctuation at all? So here's a sign that shows a red squirrel, and that is a breed of squirrel, red squirrels.
Right, yeah.
And underneath it says, red squirrels drive slowly. To which I'm thinking, well, of course they do. I mean, their feet can barely reach the pedals, so.
Squirrels does it take to drive a vehicle?
Yeah, right, exactly. So, this is where, one more. Now, this one someone put up in, I think you should do this where you work, because I want to do this where I work. You go into the bathroom near where you work, and you have to lock the door before you do your business.
Uh-huh.
Above the lock, it says, PP alone, PP with a surprise guest. Depends on whether you want it open or closed. It's your trick, Rich. Love signs. I mean, I collect this stuff.
Yeah, I know you do. All right, thank you very much, Glenn. Good morning, everybody. Cowboy football team continues to count down to their 2024 season debut. Cowboys about ready to kind of wrap up fall camp and get more into preparation for Arizona State on Saturday, August 31st. That'll be a 8:30 p.m. kickoff. 8:30 p.m. kickoff down in Arizona as the Cowboys open up on the road. On Monday, head coach Jay Sawvel said he's confident he knows who all 22 starters will be for his squad on offense and defense. It looks like Nate Geiger, 6'5", 295-pound redshirt freshman out of Highlands Ranch, Colorado, will start at left tackle alongside Wes King, Fia Tulifono, Jack Walsh, and Caden Barnett. Geiger's been in a battle with Jake Davies throughout the offseason despite never appearing in a game during his first year on campus. Keeney Parks would be the opening day other cornerback position on defense opposite of Tyreekis Davis. Connor Shea will get the nod for the weak side linebacker spot, taking over for Shea Suianoa, who slid over to the middle linebacker spot during the offseason. Cody Tucker's got all the details inside the story at 7220sports.com and on the 7220sports.com app. Speaking of Suianoa, he and center Fia Tulifono, both among this year's candidates for a second straight season for the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame 2024 watch list for the Polynesian College Football Player of the Year. So congratulations to those two Cowboys making that preseason award watch list. It is time to play ball around the Mountain West. That's right. There are 3 schools in the country that will actually make their debut later this week in quote-unquote week 0 of college football. The Hawaii Rainbow Warriors will host Delaware State. Then you've got Nevada taking on SMU in Reno, and New Mexico as a home game against Montana State. And so there are 3 games involving Mountain West teams this weekend. On the high school scene, tennis season really kicked into high gear on Monday. There were duels here in Laramie, Rollins, and up in Sheridan. In Laramie, Kelly Walsh ended up with a 5-0 victory in girls action. The boys match got rained out, and then Laramie had to move their matches indoors to the University of Wyoming indoor tennis courts to play Natrona County. The Natrona County girls beat Laramie 3-2, picking up wins at both singles and at number 3 doubles, while the Laramie boys beat Natrona 4-1. Up north in Sheridan, Cheyenne Central split with Sheridan. The girls won 4-1, but the boys lost to Sheridan 5-0. Chinese lost both their duels to Sheridan 5-0 and on the girls side and 3-2 on the boys side. Plenty of tennis action going on today, including Sheridan at Laramie. You got Central and East going to Campbell County and Thunder Basin, and more tennis action going on across the state here over the course of this week, really the first full week of prep tennis on the scene. And we're going to talk next hour about all kinds of different changes in high school volleyball impacted by the new enrollment structure that is in place for this 2024-25 school year, as well as some of the changes based upon how many teams are in conferences and what the breakdown is. I'll have that for you next hour. That is your sports this hour, though.
So let's go back up to Sheridan real quick here. The girls win, but the boys lose miserably.
Yeah.
So you know who's picking on who this morning.
Well, one of them.
Yes.
One of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I think girls.
That happens that way in high school sports sometimes.
Girls, you have an opportunity here. Let them have it. All right. Thank you, Dave. Do it again next hour. Let's wake up, Wyoming. Six at a time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Tuesday. Yes, the beginning of the Democrat convention, but also in the state of Wyoming, it is primary election day. Your chance, the final chance, if you haven't voted early, to get out there and cast your ballot.
Today's show is sponsored by Muskrat Fur Leg Warmers. Their fur, their leg warmers, they are nasty.
I'm going to do this a little early today. Normally I start the open phone segment, which I'll do every day of the week at some point at about the 8 o'clock hour. But we've had a lot of the past few weeks candidates coming in and filling up our airtime because we get near election day, primary election day. So there's no more candidates today. It's just you and me. And there's a lot going on and a lot to talk about. So let's just get into it early.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave. All right, strap in and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about or change the subject. Either way, fine by me. I'll just kind of roll with the whole thing. Now, I spent the first hour talking about the Democrat convention. And again, today is primary election time in the state of Wyoming, so if you got a chance to go to the polls, providing, of course, you're an informed voter. If you don't know what's going to be on the ballot, then do everybody a favor and don't. I'd rather only informed voters actually show up to vote on primary day and general election day. Other than that, I've got a lot of other things that have been piling up. And I want to clear a few of them out of the way, like this one. Every so often, we hear from the Democrats about a universal basic income. This idea is that everybody would get, especially lower income people, everybody would get just some money in their account every single month. Just here's some money to help you survive. Now, you can imagine all the problems that would be caused with that, right? And the people who want this can't imagine it. Now, it has been tried. There's a few European countries that have tried it on a small scale. Didn't work. There's even some places in California that just experimented with it to see what would happen. Here's the latest. A left-leaning nonprofit organization reports that a universal basic income study has failed. Now, I know this is going to be a shock to you. They found people worked less and got less money. The left-leaning National Bureau of Economic Research conducted a guaranteed income study that showed that when people work less, they still have less money. Really? People work less and they still have... Okay. Now, I'm just going to keep reading here. Let's see what they figured out. Stuff that you and I knew a long time ago, because we're just studying human nature here. We know human nature. The study was titled The Employment Effects of a Guaranteed Income. Experimental Evidence from 2 U.S. states. It came out last month. This study comes out as the Democrat president nominee Kamala Harris campaigns on a $25,000 subsidy for eligible home buyers to support their down payment. So the government, which is already broke, by the way, is supposed to just magically come up with more money that it definitely does not have and give low-income people $25,000 to help them on a down payment for their home. What could go wrong? Well, this group conducted a study with 1,000 low-income individuals and gave them each $1,000 per month for 3 years to see what would happen. There was also a control group of 2,000 participants. They got $50 a month. The money was distributed by 2 nonprofit groups and is described as the largest unconditional cash transfer program ever. That was unveiled by a randomized controlled trial. Quote, we gathered survey data, administrative records, and data from a custom mobile phone app, the study reads. The transfer caused total individual income to fall about $1,500 a year relative to the control group. So in other words, if you give them money every single month, guaranteed, they're going to get it no matter what. They work less, and they also earn more money. What they were supposed to do was continue at their jobs plus have this extra income. That's what the Democrats wanted. The results found a 2% decrease in the labor market participation among these people and a decrease by how many hours? Several hours in working hours. In addition, partners and participants in the study also voluntarily reduced their work hours to see what would happen. But there's other people who just quit working. Quote, the estimates of the effects of cash on income in labor hours represented there's a 5% at minimum decline or more in the control group. Another aspect of the study discovered that throughout this process, one of the largest things people spent time on was leisure. There were smaller increases in activities outside of that. So, in other words, we have money coming in, might as well take time off and just chill. Rather than, I can take this extra time and money and use it to better myself and get into a better position. Quote, the time diaries and survey questions support findings. The participants used the time gained through working less to increase leisure time rather than trying to figure out how to increase their position in life. Universal basic income, the story says, has been an idea that's been floated before. In fact, I've even had some people, we had it for quite a while. Chris was his name. He hadn't called in a while, but Chris used to call from Colorado. And he was a proponent of universal basic income. And I told him what's happened in other countries that have tried it. But all right, the story says, the study conducted, such as Iowa, South Dakota participated in this, Arkansas, have laws that don't allow localities to implement guaranteed basic income. So let me go back to make sure I said that right. States such as Iowa, South Dakota, and Arkansas have laws that do not allow localities to implement these programs. Okay. This study was conducted in some states that do allow for such programs, and that included some places in California. The study showed there were clear labor supply reductions as a result of money just being given out to these people. So in other words, companies that could use some employees suddenly found fewer people were applying for jobs because they didn't need them. Quote, but even labor supply reductions due to such income effects would increase the federal costs of such programs. Here's part of the reason that you and I already know this to be true, besides knowing human nature. Let's take a look at when we go into a recession, just bad economic times, and people get on unemployment. And so Congress has done this many times, has extended unemployment benefits, and extended. Well, we'll go ahead and go back to normal unemployment benefits as soon as people start finding work again. But that's not how it happens. People will find work when the unemployment benefits run out. That's what happens. And I've met people, I wanted to smack them, that have said to me, well, why would I go ahead and take that job? I got this unemployment money rolling in. People have said that to me. Okay, so increasingly, the story says, Vice President Harris unveiled another proposal last week promising $6,000 credit for families with newborns, and then another $2,000 per child, and it goes on and on. The concept perpetrates both on the rise for presidential aspirations. After Republican Ron Paul in 2007 introduced legislation in the House to exempt tips as well. So that's another. And some of this stuff is giving money to people that they want, the Democrats want to do, and Harris wants to do. And sometimes it's also, we're just going to give them tax credits. I love the idea that low-income people, we're going to give them this much money for a down payment on a home, not understanding why that won't work. But, hey, if you just want to buy their votes, right?
Woke Radio, WOK! Time to get up, everybody, and go to work. You know you don't have anywhere to go, so let's play some soft, easy favorites that'll help you sleep in until noon.
Start your day the right way. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
7:21 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming, so I just asked the question off the Wake Up Wyoming app, which, by the way, instead of just calling the program, you can do that. at 888-97-WOODS, 888-97-WOODS. But also, you can just use the Wake Up Wyoming app, which is free to download at your app store. And then when it opens up, you'll see on the toolbar across the middle, it says chat. And that sends me text messages, and I answer them both on and off the air. So that's the question, when do the polls open today? Because today's primary day in Wyoming. If you didn't vote early, today's the day. 7 o'clock, they open. So they are. And I believe they stay open until 7 o'clock, too. Now, you can go to, if you have any questions, the Wyoming Secretary of State's office. Now, the website address is easy. You can just put into your, whatever search engine you're using, Wyoming Secretary of State, and the website will come up. Or, get a load of this, SOS, yeah, like in the emergency call, but it's not. It's Secretary of State. So sos.wyo.gov. sos.wyo.gov. You type that into your browser, too. And the Wyoming Secretary of State's office comes up. And then they have a whole frequently asked questions page when it comes to the elections. And when someone asked me, so what time do the polls open? I thought, I forget. Let me see. And I took a look at it. See, basic voting information is one of them. When do the polls open? Where do I vote? What do I need to bring with me when I vote? Does my boss have to give me time off to vote? What if I'm refused the right to vote? And that's some of them. First-time voter information, voting absentee, on and on it goes. So if you have any questions, there you go. Just go to the Secretary of State's website, and boom, done. Now, according to Cowboy State Daily, I thought this was a pretty good article and idea. So Leo Wolfson from Cowboy State Daily, good article. He writes, Tuesday's primary election in Wyoming could be pivotal, not only for what the next state legislator would look like, but also what kind of election activity the state wants to reward and condemn. The largest prize at stake in the short term will be the makeup of the Wyoming legislature, as it splits between two main fractions in the Republican Party. This is where I've asked before as we've led up to today. So where are the Democrats right about now? Where's the Libertarian Party? Where's the Constitution Party? They've pretty much been absent, but there has been a big fight in the Wyoming Party, Republican Party. And the big fight is who's going to get control of it. So there's the legacy Republicans out there. And then there's a new Wyoming Freedom Caucus that's been making a lot of waves. So he writes, the largest prize at stake, the main fractions of the Wyoming Republican Party, the Wyoming Caucus, and the farther right Wyoming Freedom Caucus. So those are two, the Wyoming Caucus and the farther right Wyoming Freedom Caucus. He writes, 2 years ago, before the 2022 primary election, the Freedom Caucus was a vocal but still relatively small group. After the 2022 primary, the group gained more than 10 seats, giving it momentum to become a major force in the Wyoming House and politics in general over the past 2 years. At stake now is the potential for the Freedom Caucus to add enough seats to where it gains a majority of the Republican chairs in the House of Representatives. And the even better scenario for the group would be to gain a majority of seats overall in the House. But that would require about a 10-seat flip, which is unlikely, but not impossible. State Representative Jeremy Haroldson, Republican Wheatland, vice chair of the Freedom Caucus, says today's election, it will determine if there will be a shift, if not an overall direction change for the legislature. He said, if not for this year, I don't know when. Although the legislature is overwhelmingly Republican, many members of the Freedom Caucus argue it's not very conservative. And we've had that conversation before. There are people that I know in the Wyoming House and Senate, you know of them too, where when I look at how they vote, what they push for, I'm thinking, but that's not really a very conservative thing that you're doing there. You might have an R by your name, but I don't think you understand what that means. So when it comes to the Freedom Caucus, my thought there is there's a lot that the Freedom Caucus stands for and says they want to do that I agree with. I don't always agree with their tactics. To me, sometimes their tactics are a little harsh. That's the way I do business, though. All right. Members of the Wyoming caucus, the story says, have countered that they're more physically prudent, though their general support for investing money into savings and other public service to help the state prepare for leaner physical times. Now, and with the Wyoming, again, the Wyoming caucus is, let's call them the legacy group, and then you have the Freedom Caucus, which is the far more, if you want to call them, conservative group. I think the difference, though, is your more legacy Republicans are the ones who vote for things like, let's go ahead and spend $10 million on a gun range, which is not the proper role of government. So while they can argue, we've put a lot of money into savings, yes, but you spend a lot of money on things you shouldn't be spending money on. Senate Republican Cody Wiley, Republican Rock Springs, a member of the Wyoming caucus, believes the 2024 primary election will determine the future direction of the Republican Party as a whole in Wyoming. And that's a lot of what's going to be decided today. It's not in the state of Wyoming so much Democrat versus Republicans because the Democrats pretty much failed to show up. And again, where are the Libertarians? There is a Libertarian Party in Wyoming. Where is the Constitution Party? I really didn't see much of them anywhere. So it really is a battle within the Republican Party to see which way they're going to go, which will make a huge change for the state of Wyoming. The story says Summers likened it to rewarding a dog or a horse for bad behavior. If candidates win off a campaign where they went after their opponents, it's unlikely they'll turn away such a tactic in the future. So it's a good article. It continues on from there for quite a while. It's worth reading. It's in Cowboy State Daily. Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. News time. After local news, update on the weather forecast. Then you and I get back into it again. 7:45, Don Day's going to join us. Don Day has an extended weather forecast, which includes, it's still a bit on the warm side today, 90s. But things cooled down quite a bit, not just this week, but into next week as well. And we're going to talk about that. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
The best talk show host in the state, within his price range. Tune in to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, weekdays at 6.
7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Tuesday. It's primary election day for the state of Wyoming. So I am doing a little bit of house cleaning with some other topics that have been piling up while we've had all sorts of candidates coming in to the program over the past couple of weeks. And we don't have any today, so it's just you and me. So it is open phones. 888-97-WOODS, 888-97-WOODS. Let me get back to something I mentioned yesterday, and I thought is just worth, I think, absolutely worth going over. A lot of times people mean well. They really do. And they try to do the right thing. And yet if you actually take a look at the result of what they're doing, it turns out they're doing more harm than good. And that happens in so many different cases, in so many different ways. I've brought up many different topics over the year where very well-meaning people are doing things that they think, I'm helping, but they're actually hurting. And so here's a report from California. Plastic bags. They banned plastic bags and ended up producing more plastic bags. Story says the first by any state in the nation at 2014, noting that the ban was a regressive tax on consumers that would benefit large grocery chains who could charge 10 cents per bag for the heavier garment approved bags. They were in theory more reliable and thinner. Now the big bags, the reusable bags. Many years ago, I tried reusable bags, not because I was trying to save the planet. I tried reusable bags because I'm a single guy. When I go to a grocery store, how much am I carrying? when I go in and out? Not much. Why don't you use the same bag? I immediately found that those reusable bags got moldy fast, and I couldn't get them clean. And I finally went, yuck, and threw them out. And I found out later a lot of people found that to be the case. All right, 10 years later, the amount of plastic bag waste in California has risen by about 50%. Now, how is that possible? Specifically, the story says the weight of plastic bags, bag waste per capita, increased after the original ban was passed. Even the study called Plastic Bag Bans a Whole Lot of Work, done by environmentalists and public interest groups, features a table showing the amount of plastic bags thrown away per 1,000 people in California was about 4.08 tons in 2014. Now it's 5.89 tons in 2021. The report blames a loophole in the law when the ban on thin, what they call, and I object to this, single-use plastic bags. They are not single-use. We've had this conversation before. They're not single-use. I bring those bags home from the grocery store, those plastic bags, thin little plastic bags, and I save them and I use them for all sorts of things. Okay, when they went into effect, shoppers were left with a choice between the heavier paper bags or multi-use plastic bags, as they called them. You know, again, you bring your own grocery bags to the store. But many people apparently didn't reuse those multi-use bags. Those got thrown out. So we went from these thin little plastic bags that you're used to seeing at the grocery store. We're going to get rid of those. You have a choice between paper or the reusable bags with the handles, big heavy handles on them. You've seen them. That are also made out of plastic, by the way. They're not cloth. And so people, too, I remember talking about this a couple of years ago. Here's what tends to happen. People will go to the grocery store, and the bags that they're supposed to keep bringing to the store and reusing over and over, they forget to bring them to the store. So they have to buy another one. And then they forget to bring that to the store. So they have to buy another one. Now those things are piling up at home. So they throw them away. The result being we wound up with more plastic in the landfills than ever before because of those heavier bags that were supposed to be reusable. Okay, so again, really well-meaning, well-intentioned people want to do something to save the planet. And yet, what they end up doing was causing more waste than they had intended. Unintended consequences of things like this. Now, the question will have to be afterwards is, do they learn their lesson? Do they learn their lesson after this? I don't know if the answer to that. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not surprised at the result, though. Not at all.
Hello, everybody. We are going to die in about 30.1 seconds, so brace for impact. Bye. Mwahahaha.
You're listening to the radio.
Honestly, he's just happy to be here. Catch Glenn Woods on Wake Up Wyoming, weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
7:45 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day about the weather forecast. So I noticed we're getting a little bit tad on the warm side and much drier today.
Yeah, humidities are down. Subtropical moisture is down a lot from where it was this time yesterday. We still have some shower and thunderstorm activity that'll pop up. In fact, this morning we have a little bit of activity along the Idaho-Wyoming border in the far west. But the thunderstorms, which in some areas yesterday were pretty widespread, well, they're going to kind of take a day off.
Okay, now we get through today. I noticed there's a bit of a cool down over the next few days. Does that come with rain?
A little bit of a chance. Okay. Showers and thunderstorms are going to start to increase again tomorrow and especially Thursday and Friday. We see another patch of moisture in Arizona lifting towards us, but it'll take a day and a half to get here. Temperatures are going to cool down just a little. I mean, we're looking at very much seasonal temperatures. A bit on the warm side today and tomorrow, little cooler Thursday and Friday. Where it really gets cool, this will be especially in the western side of the state, will be this weekend. You can cut Wyoming in half this weekend. The western side of the state is going to have a taste of fall. By Sunday, I could see places like Evanston, Cokeville, Jackson, not even getting out of the 60s. But the eastern side of the state is still going to have the heat until Monday. So what will happen this weekend is we'll slice the state in half in terms of what the temperatures will do. Shower and thunderstorm activity and wind. The front is going to bring an uptick in wind, especially Friday and Saturday in some areas.
Okay, so this makes sense to me because I seem to remember as we were earlier in the summertime, we had a bit of a cool move through, and it was only on the east side of Wyoming, and the west side stayed warm. So I guess it's their turn.
It is their turn. We need to share.
Okay, that works for me. Now, what really gets me is we get into next week, and it almost feels fall-like.
Well, it will feel like, this weekend, it will feel like fall in the west.
Yeah.
And on Wednesday, another cold front's coming, but it's going to be more east of the divide. So east of the divide will feel the coolest temperatures by middle of next week. So we have a couple of periods here where a little hint of fall will be there. It's not fall yet, but there's hints.
Yeah. Hints. That's what I said. Canada's testing their machines.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Don. Don Day with Day. Yeah, it's nice to hear that a little bit of coolness come down for a while. Not that it's been particularly a hot summer. We've had a few days there, but overall, it's actually been kind of a mild summer. So here comes that cool down. Off to Laramie we go. David Settle is waiting by. Okay, Dave, we're always giving warnings out to people in Yellowstone and such places. This one, though, I think is a bit over the top, but it's true, okay?
Okay.
Yellowstone warns visitors to use caution during bison mating season.
As if you should be around a bison anyway.
Yes. I mean, at any time you don't want to get too close. But during bison mating season, they're in full rut, and those boys want to pick a fight.
Yeah,
now,
with whatever it is. It could be your own vehicle, your camper, whatever.
If anybody, in fact, I need to go ahead and write up a story about this. I think I'll go ahead and save this one so I can do it, because the people who wrote the original story were Oil City News. What they didn't do was include examples by video, and I have those. And that's, as you just said, there's bison just ripping apart people's cars.
Yes.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter the size of the vehicle. The bigger your vehicle, the more of a challenge it is to that guy. By the way, they love mauling tourists, too. So this is the time when if you want to go ahead and take a picture of one of these guys, I would say he should probably be a dot on the horizon in your camera.
Yeah. Make sure you got a good, nice telephoto lens that can zoom in for quite a ways.
Stay back. Now, I think part of the fun news on that, though, is if you're in the right place at the right time, you can watch a couple of these big boys go at it. And, man, is it an impress. That's a lot of power. I mean, these things weigh thousands of pounds. All of that. To me, a bison, a Wyoming bison, looks like a weightlifter at the gym who never has leg day because they're all top heavy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But when they go at it, man, I mean, you can hear the thuds as they come together. And I wonder why they don't get headaches or something like that. But it gets brutal.
Yeah, well, we know that they have a lot of power. I think their kind of speed and some of the other characteristics that a bison has is what you don't really factor in.
Yeah. But when it comes time to show the ladies what they're made of, again, they will take on your car. So I would suggest a rent-a-car, not your own, with extra insurance on it.
Yeah,
and you should be fine.
Yeah, avoid them at all costs. All right, thank you very much, Glenn. Good morning, everybody. As promised, let's talk about some changes in fall sports at the high school level. Now, some of the basic ones, and a lot of this has to do with the new enrollment structure where you're no longer pushed up or down based upon somebody else's changing enrollment. It's based on where your school's enrollment is. 700 and above is Class 4A. Then 699 down to 210 is 3A. 209 down to 209 and below you got 2A, and then below that you got 1A. And so there's different cutoff points. And for fall sports, let's give you some basics. Evanston, Riverton have now moved to 4A this year in both golf and cross country. Glen Rock has now moved to 3A in both golf and cross country. Girls swimming and diving just started practice yesterday. Evanston, Green River, and Riverton are above the minimum cut line for 4A, so they move up. That puts 14 schools for girls swimming and diving in 4A and leaves just 9 down in Class 3A. Volleyball is the big change. There's all kinds of movement when it comes to volleyball. You only have 15 schools now in Class 4A, and both Casper schools, Natrona County and Kelly Walsh, are now back in the same conference. They're in the West. And then you've got Cody back in 3A. Burns has moved back to 3A. Thermopolis and Moorcroft are now back in 2A. And then you've got some interesting changes because you've got St. Stephen's, Lingle, Fort Laramie, and Lusk that have all fallen down back to Class 1A because of their enrollment. And Fort Washte's now fielding a varsity volleyball team, so they're now factored in. You have 23 schools now playing volleyball in the 4 different quote-unquote quadrants of high school volleyball here in the state. Couple of notable changes. For 4A, because there's 7 teams in the East, we're talking about Sheridan, the 2 Gillettes, the 3 Cheyennes, and Laramie. They're all going to play home and home in conference and then play a 7-team double elimination bracket at regionals. The West is doing something completely different. They've broken, even though there's 8 teams, into 2 separate quadrants with Kelly Walsh and Natrona grouped with Green River and Rock Springs, and then Jackson, Star Valley, Evanston, and Riverton in another quad. The matches with the 4 teams in your own quad will be the ones that count for conference. They'll still play cross-quadrant matches, but only for tie-breaking purposes, and then they will have an 8-team double elimination bracket. The 2A East is really strange because you got 5 schools up in the Northeast, and then Pine Bluffs is the 6th school. And what they're doing is a points rating system. You get so many points based upon your victory, whether it's over a 1A opponent, 2A, 3A, 4A, a sub 3A varsity. So like you're playing some schools JV or sophomore team out of 3A or 4A, you get certain points, and you get bonus points for beating teams that are in Class 2A in the state. So that's going to be different, and they go to a 6-team double elimination bracket. And in Class 1A, with all the teams in the various quadrants, only the top 4 will make the regional tournament. So a lot of changes to kind of digest for high school sports in the fall season. And I tried to break it down as simple as possible, but it's not really that simple. Yep. I'm mapping it out right now, and I'll have the details for you later at wildpreps.com and on the Wild Preps app. That is your sports this hour.
Sounds to me then what you're saying is if a school gets smaller, it's not just their football team that needs to downsize. They play in a different league with volleyball and so on.
Yeah, and a lot of this is going to impact volleyball, basketball, wrestling, things like that. Football is a little different in this state, but it's you got to keep track of it all, and that's what I'm here to do.
All right. See, that's why we hired you. There you go. All right. Thank you, Dave. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods the phone number. Wake up, Wyoming. Of time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Tuesday. It's primary voting day in the state of Wyoming. Polls are already open. I'll get you the results first thing tomorrow morning as they come in, which actually the results will come in early tonight because it's Wyoming. There's not a whole lot of people here, as you might have noticed. So counting votes up usually happens quickly within the early hours of the evening. But in the morning, we'll talk about some of those results.
Today's show is sponsored by Muskrat Fur Leg Warmers. Their fur, their leg warmers, they are nasty.
888-97 Woods the phone number. It is open phone. So 888-97 WOODS. All right. Now, I got to give credit to this was good. Last hour, I was talking about the plastic bag ban in California and how it created more plastic waste. Now, if you missed that, the short story here is when you take a look at those big reusable bags, which I tried using many years ago because I figured I go to the grocery store, I'm a single guy, I grab a few things at the store and I'm good. I don't need a ton. So why don't I just use a reusable bag? I mean, instead of bringing home all these other plastic or paper bags. And then I find out that those things get moldy really fast, and there's other problems with them, so okay. But they're made out of mostly plastic materials. And they call those thinner ones that you get at the grocery stores currently single-use bags, which, as you know, they're not single-use bags because we all use them for so many different things. So here's what happened. California got rid of the thinner bags that you now use, and they gave people a choice between paper and plastic. And the plastics would be those bigger, what they call reusable bags with the big handles on them. The problem is people constantly forget to bring those bags to the store, and so they have to buy a new one. And the new ones don't cost that much. Or they just buy new ones every single time and just use those as single-use bags. I suppose they use them for more than one thing. But those bags were piling up. And when the weight tally came in, after several years of doing this, the landfills now have more plastic in them than before the plastic bag ban. So to that, I have to give credit to Farmer14 and Pavilion who sent me this text. This was, really good. You're dead on with this. The increase, he writes, plastic bag waste in California can be summed up easily by the economic term, the Cobra effect. As soon as he said that, I went, oh, yeah, I remember this story. India had cobras in the street. The British government put a bounty on collecting snakes. People making money on the bounty started raising them at home in their bathtubs. So they took away the bounty and wound up with far more cobras than before because there's unintended consequences. Because as soon as the Brits realized what was going on, you're raising snakes at home in your bathtubs and then coming in with a bunch of cobras and charging us for them. So that's it. We're not going to pay you for cobras anymore. Well, now there's all these snakes in bathtubs all over the place. So those were just released, and now they have more cobras than ever before. Unintended consequences. This is why I constantly say, for many reasons, you cannot start or run an artificial economy. It doesn't work that way. So when Kamala Harris says, we're going to have price controls to bring down prices and hold them at a certain level, doesn't work, has been tried before, never works. It's an artificial economy. Why is the electric car industry not doing well? Or wind and solar? Every time they run out of subsidies, they all go out of business. All those wind farms and solar farms. Because you're creating an artificial economy, and it doesn't work. Now, since I brought up something dealing with climate change.
So put on your respirator, and let's fix that generator. And while we're out, we'll mend our fences too. See, I'm not afraid of dying, just got reasons for surviving. I want one more day in the apocalypse with you.
First one, lock up your daughters, ladies and gentlemen, because here comes climate change. A story reads, and it just gets me the level that these folks go to try to convince you that the end is nigh. But okay. Heavier and longer summer monsoons, the story reads, are fueling a rise in child marriages in Pakistan. Yes, climate change is causing more child marriages in Pakistan, and even younger girls, too. Human rights workers are warning that such weddings are on the rise due to climate-driven economic insecurity. Great story, since it holds out a small hope of banning hydrocarbons could help solve the problem of forced underage girls getting married to older men, but okay. This is what they want to convince you of. The error-strewn article reproduced in many publications around the world. A French state-owned agency claimed that flooding in Pakistan in 2022 plagued a third of the country, put it underwater. Looking at a contour map would show this to be unlikely or even impossible, but okay, this is what they said. Even the BBC's statistical program more or less confirmed it's not really possible to have floods like that, but okay. Climate change is making monsoons longer than ever before. It's just factually incorrect, but reading up. So this nonsense story, the latest, that says, in a tidal wave of mainstream fear-mongering designed to boost net zero, takes an emotional theme of unprovable claims. The emotion is obvious in this one. They're saying that the volume of older men marrying little girls has gone up because of climate change. So, okay, there's that. Now, to me, I want them to continue jumping the shark on this. I really do. Because the more they jump the shark, the more unbelievable these claims are, the fewer people who believe them. Now, the next one was sent to me by my friend John. He's up there in Gillette. New York Times. How close are the planet's tipping points? And this is an article that they have where they take a look at climate tipping point. And we're supposed to, by the way, be at another climate tipping point. Okay. So, and I wish I could read the whole article, but I don't subscribe to newspapers online. I don't really have to. But Earth could be triggering sweeping changes in the natural world, that we would be reaching soon a tipping point in climate. How many times have you heard that? How many times have you been warned about a climate tipping point? It came and went, and yet it never happened. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'm going to call it up again. I subscribe to, or I shouldn't say subscribe, follow a website called The Extinction Clock, which is worth looking up. The Extinction Clock goes through, as a countdown clock, past predictions of climate doom. And since we're past them, we know it didn't happen, right? But it also takes a look at future predictions of climate doom with a countdown clock. So it's just one item after the next with a ticking clock next to it. Let me see. Let's go back to one year ago, 1 year and 61 days ago. Greta Thunberg was quoting a top climate scientist when she said we had 5 years to stop using fossil fuels or we reach a tipping point. And as we got close to that 5-year mark, she took that down from her Twitter page and then just refused to talk about it. And that time came and went. We're over a year past it now. And the news media tries to defend her by saying she never said that. We have what she said. She did too say that. Let's see, another one. Crash course toward massive species extinction. That was supposed to happen 1 year, 125 days ago. This list goes on for a very long way. And like I said, I'm not going to go back and read all of them because there's decades worth of material in predictions that didn't come true. And then there's, let me go back real quick before I let you go here. Real quick, I want to take a look at the next prediction. When are we supposed to hit the next extinction? Because I figure it's got to be, we have 132 days to go. Okay. Apparently in 132 days, according to the Australian Prime Minister, we have to move toward we'll have a climate emergency. From a notice of motion to the House of Representatives, we have to cut greenhouse gases or we reach a tipping point, he's saying. Now, his predicted tipping point is 132 days from now, and then we're done. Here's another one. We have 140 days to go. Climate will reshape global national politics, according to another, same guy, Australian Prime Minister. Another 98 days. There was a claim 10 years before climate change results in human extinction. And, we only have 98. Okay. 2 years and 98 days. Okay. It was predicted global human extinction in 10 years. We have 2 years and 98 days to go. So I would say go ahead and make your peace with God and party down because that's how much time we have left.
They say cows are bad for the environment because all they do is eat plants and fart. Just like vegans.
When you need to know quicker than the morning paper or the 5 o'clock news, you need Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Mornings on K2 Radio.
8:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Brand new sponsor for the program. This guy sells used and very sketchy mobile homes.
Hi, I'm Robert Lee. I own Coleman Liquidation. I sell mobile homes. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to tell it just like it is. These are mobile homes, not mansions. They come in two pieces. If that's what you're looking for, that's what I got. They're used. Some of them have stains. We cover that up. She decorates them. She sells them. These guys help me move. Bouncer in Birmingham hit me in the face with a crescent wrench 5 times. And my wife's boyfriend broke my jaw with a fence post. So if you don't buy a trailer from me, it ain't going to hurt my feelings. So come on down to Coleman Liquidation and get yourself a home. Or don't. I don't care.
It's just whatever. Hey, it's our newest sponsor. Okay, so Election Day, that's today as far as primaries go here in the state of Wyoming, and I have been complaining we're the Libertarian Party, we're the Constitution Party. They don't really exist in this, and the Democrat Party is pretty much non-existent in this past election cycle here on primary election day. So there's also a bunch of other candidates, which I kind of look at and scratch my head and wonder about. These other candidates, they showed up, but they didn't. All right, so let's say you're looking at the ballot, and as you're going down, for whatever race it might be, and you see a name and you think, who's that? Never heard of that guy. All right, well, because I talk to candidates all the time, many of them seek me out because they want to get on the air, and that's fine. Oftentimes, I ask them, even on the air, if people want to know more about you, where do they find anything about you? Do you have a website, social media, something like that? And many don't. They don't understand this whole newfangled interweb thing that all the kids are talking about, and I'm sure it's a passing fad. But okay, they're using it though. When you see people walking around staring at their phones all day long, that's where people are. There we go. Okay, I'm just queuing something up for you. So, since they don't know this, and I know there are some people out there, they don't really do social media, they don't do websites, but you're running for office. And trust me, as a media guy, you got to know where people are. And that's one of the reasons why we don't have much for newspapers anymore in paper form. They're online, mostly on people's mobile devices, which is why you see people swiping and reading on their phones all the time. They might be reading the newspaper, which is where it is now. Many of these candidates have no idea how to reach out to the public at all. And so when I ask them about websites and social media, and they shrug their shoulders, I'm not really all into that. So you don't exist, essentially, the way people do things today, like it or not. So why not just hire somebody to do that for you if you don't know how? Because you got to reach out. Many people want to run for office, but they don't know what to do. And if you have that passion to run for office, you might want to do a little bit of investigative work into how to run for office before you try doing it, instead of just putting your name out there on the ballot. Because what's happening right now is people are going to vote today. People are going into the polling places here in Wyoming, and they're voting today. And they're coming across names that they've never heard of, and they're wondering, who's this guy? Never heard of him. Where's he been? Doesn't have any yard signs out. Didn't knock on my door. Didn't get any mailers from him. Not on social media. Tried looking his name up. Can't find him. So next time around, folks, if you're someone who has a passion for running, I encourage you then please do run. If you don't know how to use social media, do some research and learn how to run a campaign. That way, when you do run, people will actually know who you are. They'll see your name out there. They'll recognize it when they get to the ballot. Now, if you don't know, which means you have a better chance of them actually voting for it. For those who still don't understand the Internet, here's a good explanation.
This is the Internet. But how is it made? Well, it all starts here, in Australia, where it's mined before being transported using a special Internet wheelbarrow to a factory for mixing. Smells delicious. Next, the internet is barreled up and rolled to the factory next door, where any bad internet is washed away, before the factory calls the head of the internet, Mr. Bill Gates, for his approval. Once approved, Thomas here releases a clean internet to begin its 10-month journey to Ireland. It's then blessed before arriving into our homes. Oh, there's Bridget. The end.
There you go. That's how the internet works. Let me see. ID John in Granite Canyon. I'm a mailer. Let me see. He's gotten so many mailers he could wallpaper a medium-sized room. I actually haven't gotten that many, but I understand what you're saying. Bill is in Cheyenne. Maybe we're not seeing much of a Democrat presence in this cycle because they are running as Republicans, like Lee Filler in Cheyenne. I do know for a fact that it is the case, that there are some people out there who are Democrats who run as Republicans because they know there's no other way to win in Wyoming. I also know that there are people who are Republicans in government in Wyoming, and they have an R by their name, and they believe they're conservative Republicans, but if you look at the way they vote, they don't understand what a conservative Republican is supposed to be. And so, well, they really are in the wrong party. They should move over to the Democrat Party. Many of them won't, because mostly the Democrat Party has gone so far left, that a lot of people who they'll be moderates, let's say, don't know what to make of it. And so they move, in Wyoming anyway, to the Republican Party. But they're truly not conservatives either. They're more like moderate Republicans. All right, coming up on some local news, update on your weather forecast. After that, you and I get back into it. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about or change the subject. Fine by me. Next segment, I'm going to take a look at a Trump policy compared to a Harris policy, basically on the same issue. So either one of them's saying they're going to handle it. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
Like a strong cup of coffee in the morning. Tasteless, but it'll get you through the day. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
.36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Now, she's able to call back, and I would love actually to take this call. Miss Mary let me know that Kyle Cameron, who's a Democrat in Wyoming, running for, she might be on the phone right now, running for Congress, wanted to talk to us. And it looks like Kyle Cameron actually is one of those candidates out there that actually understands websites and social media, because, Kyle, I see that you have that stuff. Morning. Wait a second. Hold on a second.
Second, I've got one.
Okay, good. I'm glad that you have all of those things. And it's good to see not just your face there and the social media presence and so on, but also thanks for calling into the program. I do have to ask you, though, when I take a look at, and I do want to ask about your campaign on a very serious level, but when I take a look at the Democrat Party running in Wyoming this time around, I actually don't see much of a presence this time. And I wonder, do you see that too, or is it just me?
Oh, I wonder why that is. Any ideas why that might be? I mean, if we're going to talk about it, do you have any thoughts about why?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I have no idea why.
Because we've been threatened, we've been intimidated, we've been scared. We've gotten to the point where in some of our counties, there was a point where you didn't even say you were a Democrat because you were afraid for your life.
Okay.
Like our ability to speak out, our ability to voice our concerns has been highly censored and muted. And there's been a lot of rhetoric as well. So there's a lot of rhetoric about, let me take a breath, Glenn. There's a lot of rhetoric around you can't win in Wyoming unless you're a Republican. And it's really important to register as a Republican because your vote can influence the election. So we saw that with Governor Gordon and Foster Freeze. We saw that with Liz Cheney. However, we also see that it's not really working, right? So register as a Republican, you can influence the election, but Representative Hageman still got elected, right?
Right.
That's part of it. that's really, I would say, the biggest part of it is just the rhetoric and the fear and intimidation around us having a political voice that isn't like generally accepted.
Okay. Now, at the same time, though, you've decided to step up and go ahead and run anyway. So despite what you see as some intimidation, you've decided to step out anyway. And I'm glad to see the bravery on that part, if that's the way you think about it.
Yeah.
So you're from where? Let's introduce you to the people out there. You're from where?
Wyoming. I'm from Cheyenne. I was born and raised in Cheyenne. I was raised on the south side.
Okay.
So, you know, for those of people who live in rural Wyoming, they may not know what that means to be raised on the south side, but I was raised on the south side of Cheyenne. My dad, James Griffith, was a city councilman. Okay. He worked tirelessly to make sure that there were paved roads on the south side of Cheyenne. I would say that he would say that was his greatest achievement. My mom, Mamie Urbicite Griffith, she was the first woman to run for mayor of Cheyenne. She lost, but she did it, and I was a part of that campaign, and I was part of my dad's campaign. I grew up in Cheyenne. I'm a University of Wyoming graduate. My daughters are University of Wyoming graduates. One of my daughters works for the University of Wyoming. The other one works for Wyoming Game and Fish.
Okay.
And I have a son who is exploring his life.
Okay. So I have a niece that does that. My youngest niece I never know where she's going to be literally on planet Earth next. And I mean that literally, as she travels and does just amazing things. All right. So do you have political experience besides running for this office?
Yeah, I've ran for Laramie County Conservation District. I've ran for precinct committee person. I didn't win the Conservation District. I did win the precinct committee person.
Okay.
I'm also the Wyoming Democratic Party Labor Caucus Chair.
Okay. Okay, so you've been very politically active this entire time. What prompted you or inspired you to run for this office this time around?
Well, right, exactly. So it's not something anyone should take lightly, although I encourage people to do it, right?
Right.
I encourage people to put their name on the ballot. You hear a lot of things, just go ahead and do it anyway and keep going. So I just encourage people to do that. But to be honest with you, Glenn, I've been having this conversation with people for a couple of years. Again, having the conversation with some really close personal friends, with family members. And then someone said to me, you really should check Representative Hageman's voting record. And I went, well, all right, yeah, I guess I should. And I did. And I found out that Representative Hageman has voted against workers, according to the AFL-CIO candidate, or elected official, how they vote. She has voted against workers every single time and voted for corporations. And that's not me, right? I am going to vote for workers. I'm going to support workers. I'm going to stand up for workers' rights. I'm going to advocate for workers' rights every single time. And that moment, when I saw that was the way she was voting on that, and then somebody alerted me, like it all happened at the same time, Glenn, because somebody else alerted me around the same time that she had also voted to defund NATO. And it was like, oh my gosh, I know I can do a better job representing Wyoming and representing Wyoming's values than Harriet Hageman. I know I can. I know I'm not going to say hurtful, hateful, harmful things about someone who has given their life to political service. So those things just made me go, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do it.
Okay. I'm talking with Kyle Cameron. She is from Cheyenne, Wyoming. She's running as a Democrat for U.S. House of Representatives for the state of Wyoming. And again, I'm really glad that you called in for this conversation, because in the past, I've had many more Democrats calling in. This year, you are the only one. So I want to have this conversation, but we only have a couple of minutes left. So let's say Wyoming gave you this job. You have this gig. Yes. What is it specifically you would like to accomplish that you would bring to the table in representing Wyoming?
Right. I want to add to the infrastructure. Like, there's so many things. Oh, my head just explodes. I definitely want to add to the infrastructure funding that can come into Wyoming to increase passenger rail throughout the northern and southern parts of Wyoming. one of the things as I go around the state and I talk to people running for county commissioner is water infrastructure. This isn't new. You were talking about it earlier, I think, or I heard you at another time talking about drought.
Mm-hmm.
That's very real for our ranchers in Wyoming, right? So we've got to be talking about what we're going to do about our water. We've got to be talking about what we're going to be doing about our water infrastructure, especially in our small communities that we want to attract people to. We want to attract families to. And one of the ways we can do that is by saying we're going to be, we have clean water and it's easily accessible to you. Transportation, clean water, housing, everywhere we go, we talk about housing. So from what I've heard now, there's hopefully incentives for first-time home buyers coming. Definitely Wyoming can be a leader in manufacturing homes. Let's do the research. Let's invest in research organizations who can help us invest in manufacturing sustainable homes, extreme weather sustainable homes, net zero homes if that's where we want to go. But of course, my number one issue is reproductive freedoms and bodily autonomy. I absolutely believe that we are guaranteed by the Constitution to be the people have a right to be secure in their persons. And the way I read that passage, that's Amendment 4, is that we have a right to be secure in our persons. We have a right to be secure in our autonomy. So if I want to present as a male, it's none of your business. Like, I'm going to present as a male. I have a right to my bodily autonomy. So in 2022, the House of Representatives passed the Women's Health Protection Act. It went to the Senate. It didn't go anywhere. I think we can do better. I think we can do the Bodily Autonomy Act, which will provide protections for everyone in the way they choose to present themselves and their bodily autonomy.
Okay, to find out more,
including reproductive rights.
Cameron4Wyoming.net to find out more. That's Cameron4Wyoming.net.
Yeah,
now, here's what I'd like you to do, if you would, please.
Yeah, thank you.
When we get done with this is the primary day. And then as we get close to the general election, you'll still be around, I'm sure, because I don't see anybody else running against you, right? So now that you have our phone number, as we get close to the general election, please call back and let's have this conversation again. Because I prefer, as much as I'm a really, in case you hadn't noticed, opinionated kind of guy, I'm more of a libertarian. But I want to hear what other people think. And I think just like we have this guy, Greg, that calls from Laramie, he and I disagree on everything. But Greg is respectful, and he's funny, and he's charming, and I like talking to him. So, when we get closer to the general election.
Shout out to Greg, because Greg was the one. I'm in Albany County.
Yes.
I was at the Albany County campaign office. Greg was down there. I said, what do I do next, Greg? And he said, you call Glenn.
Thank you, Greg.
Shout out to Greg.
So, I got to run for time's sake. Will you call back closer to the general election?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Kyle Cameron, Wake Up Wyoming.
This show contains sarcasm that some listeners may find disturbing. A sense of humor is advised. Chat with Glenn live on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
8:50 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to Laramie to talk to David Settle. Dave, real quick here, I see on my social media, this is Denver Airport, right? There is a couple that have like a 3-hour layover. And so they're having fun on the people movers. Now, in this case, the treadmill basically. The husband is laying down and he's holding his feet up in the air. And she's laying across his feet and pretending to swim in midair.
Then what people do to kill time.
Yes. Then there was the team. It was a rowing team. And so they sat down and pretended to row, back and forth. So in other words, when you got 3 hours to kill, I mean, fine, go to the people movers and just make it up. Keep us entertained.
Yeah, well, that's what you got to do sometimes when you're at the airport. I'll have that coming up when the Cowgirl basketball season starts. All right, let's get into, speaking of the University of Wyoming, let's talk some sports this hour. The Wyoming Cowboy football starting lineup for offense and defense about set. Sounds like it. Jay Savell on Monday telling the media after practice he's confident he knows who all 22 starters will be. There were a few question marks going into camp, particularly left tackle, a second cornerback, and who takes over a weak side linebacker. Well, it looks like we've got the answers. Nate Geiger, 6'5", 295-pound redshirt freshman out of Highlands Ranch, Colorado. Looks like he's going to start at the left tackle spot. He's been in a battle with Jake Davies throughout the offseason. Then Keani Parks would get the opening day nod at the other cornerback position opposite of Tyrekus Davis on defense. And Connor Shea will take over the weak side linebacker spot for Shea Suianoa, who moved to the middle linebacker spot during the offseason. And Cody Tucker details all these changes at 7220sports.com and on the 7220sports.com app. The Polynesian Football Hall of Fame has announced its 2024 watch list for the Polynesian College Football Player of the Year award, and 2 Wyoming Cowboys have been named to the list this year, linebacker Shea Suianoa and center Fia Tulafono. So congratulations, they're among this year's candidates for a second straight season. There are 3 Mountain West football teams that actually begin playing the 2024 season later this week in week 0. Those 3 teams are Hawaii, Nevada, and New Mexico. Hawaii will take on Delaware State. And then Nevada, with a new coach, will play host to SMU in Reno Saturday night. And New Mexico, under new head coach Bronco Mendenhall, will take on Montana State. And former Wyoming offensive coordinator Brent Vigen's the head coach up there at Montana State. And the Wyoming Cowgirl volleyball team has been picked kind of in the middle of the pack this year in the preseason Mount West volleyball poll that just came out. The Cowgirls got picked to finish 6th by the league office. Cowgirls garnered 56 points in that poll. After a brown and gold scrimmage last Saturday, they traveled to Green River for an exhibition outreach event where they will take on Weber State. That's coming up this Saturday, August 24th. At the high school level, there was some tennis action. First, here in Laramie, Kelly Walsh shut out Laramie in girls action 5-0 yesterday. The boys match was tied at 1-1 when it got wiped out by rain here in the Gem City. Then Laramie moved the Natrona County matches indoors, and it was NC 3, Laramie 2 in the girls. On the boys side, Laramie won at 4-1. Up in Sheridan, Cheyenne Central girls picked up a 4-1 win, while the Central boys lost to Sheridan 5-0. For Cheyenne East, they got beat by Sheridan in both girls and boys 5-0 and 3-2. Central and East play the 2 Gillette schools in Gillette today, Campbell County and Thunder Basin. And then Laramie will host Sheridan in some other action. Rollins and South will play on Wednesday. That is your sports this hour.
And you are going to be really busy in the coming months. Here it goes.
Starting really later today, I go on my preseason Wild football tour up to the Bighorn Basin, so I'll be crisscrossing that for the next 3 days.
All right. Thank you, David. Oh, by the way, I got a lot of phone calls after the guest we just had, a surprise caller, a lady running for U.S. Senate for the state of Wyoming on the Democrat ticket. And man, did I get a lot of responses on the Wake Up Wyoming app. I'll talk about all of that and your responses next hour. Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right. Very interesting caller last hour that got a lot of comments on the Wake Up Wyoming app. And you can also comment by calling the program at 888-97-WOODS.
Today's show is sponsored by Muskrat Fur Leg Warmers. Their fur, their leg warmers, they are nasty.
Horrible. But they're on sale. So what the hell?
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
The reason for that disclaimer, most of you know this, but for those who don't, I'll go ahead and add that in. On this program, I'm more of the libertarian point of view, but I talk to also conservatives, and if liberals want to call, and that's fine. I'm opinionated. I tell you what I think, and I try to do it in a way that's got satire, and parody to make it kind of funny and fun to listen to. That way, we're not just screaming at each other. And anybody who wants to call and agree or disagree, that's fine. That's the point of the program, is to get the discussion started. I really don't like the idea of an echo chamber. All right, with that in mind, every once in a while, we get a call for a guy named Dave, and he's from San Francisco. And I say it that way because he's kind of snooty. He's an obnoxious jerk. And he doesn't last long because whenever he calls this program, the first thing he starts to do is insult me and insult you. And so I just hang up. And I have complimented before Greg, who calls his program from Laramie, and he at least is funny and fun and interesting to talk to. So even though we disagree on everything, but that's okay. He makes an interesting caller. So who just called is Kyle Cameron. She is running for the U.S. House of Representatives as a Democrat in the state of Wyoming. And I thought we had a very respectful conversation. Now, I have a whole list of responses for that off the Wake Up Wyoming app, which I'm going to get to. But first, let's head over to Fred in Colorado. Hello, Fred.
Good morning, Glenn. Before I get to my primary reason for calling, that lady was complaining about the intimidation in Wyoming. She ought to live in Colorado and be a Republican.
I believe it. Yeah, I thought about that while she was saying
Our
it. Yeah.
state legislature is 100% controlled by the Democrats, including the governor.
Right.
So, well, to my 2 points. Number one, I just thought I'd like you to know I'm considering filing a complaint with the FCC against you.
Yeah, what I do now.
Well, Glenn, every time you play Caramel or whatever her name is, Harris's voice on the radio, you know there are laws against cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah.
And I consider that cruel and unusual punishment, and I think you ought to stop it.
Okay, I tell you what. As soon as we get past November, I won't run those anymore.
Okay, but also on top of that, you got Jean Pierre.
Yes.
When I hear you run her, that's like listening to waterboarding.
God, yeah. That really. Waterboarding with fingernails on a chalkboard at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the last thing on a more serious note, I listen to all the ads that are run by the different candidates in Wyoming.
Yeah.
Glenn, there ought to be just one ad because they're all the same ad.
Yeah.
Just interchange the people.
Yeah.
I don't hear anybody saying, "Oh, I'm for open borders. I'm for increasing property taxes.
Right.
I'm here for lack of transparency." They need to be a little more creative in what they say. And when they say, "Well, I'm for transparency," tell me what you mean.
Wait.
Give me a specific.
You've inspired me. Here's what they do. To political candidates listening to me, next time you run and do this, let somebody run an ad in front of you. You run an ad right after that political ad that says, "I agree with everything that last guy just said." There. Now it's like a 5-second ad and you saved a bunch of money.
Not only that, what I would also offer as a thought, the candidate who's running for a certain position, the guy who's also running against him, run their ads one right after the other.
Sure.
And see how different they are. But I just thought to let you know that cruel and unusual punishment, you're going to have a lot of people seeking therapy.
Soon as we get past November, I promise we'll stop.
Okay, Glenn.
Right.
Have a great day.
Head off from Colorado to Cheyenne. Micah's on the phone. Hello, Micah.
Hello. Gosh, it was great hearing Kyle. I haven't seen her in ages.
Mm-hmm.
But, now to me, she is a Democrat, I suppose, registered Democrat. But she is certainly somebody that I would vote for.
Okay.
I think she's solid. I think she's sincere. I think she's got her priorities in order. And, if it could ever come down to her and Hageman, Kyle's got my vote 100%.
Okay, even though...
And that's why I just really hate these labels. It's what they classify people as instead of us really looking at who those people are behind the moniker or something.
But now let's take a look at what the two want to accomplish, because you have one person that is much more for government solutions and big government and et cetera, and then you got another person who is much more conservative in those values. So you do have to take a look at more conservative values versus more liberal values. And besides the person themselves, what about that, what they will fight for?
Right. Well, I think they will fight for the voice of the people.
Okay.
And I think Kyle would actually do that a lot more than Harriet does.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Micah.
I think this state really does still get hung up on what it means to be a Republican versus a Democrat.
Right.
Okay, we want to keep our Western style and everything, but so do a lot of Democrats.
You see, to me, though, I think there's a huge... There is a huge... Now, right now, the Republicans are not doing great either in my book. Remember, I'm more of the libertarian guy. But
Right.
There is a huge philosophical difference between what the Democrats want to get done and what the Republicans want to get done. And so you do have to look at that. What exactly do they want to create and get done? It's not just a matter of, I know personal character definitely does matter, but you also have to take a look at, this is why I always ask them, when you get this gig, if you get this job, what do you want to accomplish? And it's those things they're going to fight for and the accomplishments they want that I primarily look at.
Right. But, people also make it sound like, okay, what do you want to accomplish? Almost as though they are the president. They are going to have the international relationships. They
do have their vote anyway.
And they're not. They are our legislators to make sure that we stay on an even keel and that we can afford to do what we're doing and that it's done, with justice, which is partly what separates us from the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. And it's just too bad that we get hung up then on these ideologies because, well, this is the reason why we've got the term rhino. The people stand behind the R, but then in reality, they don't follow that ideology. Mm-hmm. So, what good is that? But, quite frankly, if there are just too many contenders for Republicans, then I don't see why some of the conservatives can't go and run as Democrats. Because, I know plenty of conservative Democrats. So, I don't know.
If you think so. I haven't met one yet, but okay. All right. Thank you, Micah. I appreciate it. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. So let me see. This is, we got so many people that have, there's Casper, Granite Canyon, there's Wheatland over here. So, pardon me, I'm just kind of sorting through all of the people who came in. So this is Blue Eyes in Douglas. And speaking of Kyle, who is Kyle Cameron's the one who called in, running for the House of Representatives for the state of Wyoming on a Democrat ticket. So Blue Eyes says, she talks about harassment. What about, they say about us that we're dumb idiots and racist. She better stop talking down Hageman or talking down Hageman. Her head is in the sand. Then she went on to say, great, so she is for allowing men to say that they are women and playing in women's sports, and she can be a cat if she wants to be. Okay, but screw us, basically, is what Blue Eyes is saying. I have a lot more comments than just that. You can go ahead and drop them in. Use the Wake Up Wyoming app or call the show like the last two people just did. 888-97-WOODS the number. 888-97-WOODS. Wake Up Wyoming.
Now, Glenn Woods fits in your pocket with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030, K2 Radio.
And research to help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
9:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 888-97-WOODS the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. So still responding to Kyle Cameron, who's running for U.S. House of Representatives for the state of Wyoming. She'll be running against Harriet Hageman. So in the general election. Okay, so just real quick to get out of the way, what I was thinking while Kyle was talking, and I did send her a thank you note for calling in because I appreciate that she did something that obviously was making her a little bit nervous to do, which I appreciate that. But also, I thought she was very nice and respectful, even though I disagreed with every single stance that she has on every single issue. I thought she was very nice, respectful, and I'd like her to call back. Like I don't mind it when Greg calls because at least Greg is a hoot to talk to, even though he drives you guys crazy. It's another point of view. For me, being more the libertarian guy, the solution to our problems is less government. I mean, a lot less. Like, you would not believe how much less. Because they don't know how they're making a mess of our schools. They don't know how to fix health care. They keep making it worse. They can't fix the housing problems that we have. They're just going to make that worse. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Government is not your solution. The people in government that we have in government now and have always really had, they are oftentimes naive, arrogant, stupid in some cases, just flat out stupid, corrupt, The list goes on. They have no idea what they're doing. They don't know how to fix all of these things. And yet they still try to fix everything. In which case, let me see, one of the comments that I got here, let me see, that was for there. Okay. I-80 John, nice interviewing, a big D Democrat federal government solution for everything. That's basically what I'm talking about. Diana and Casper, I think I read that one. How appropriate Cameron would call the show on the day you are discussing how well-meaning people can be doing more harm than good. I'm glad you listened to everyone, but that woman scares me, she said. And see, Tim and Casper, even if there is a conservative Democrat elected, I suspect they would be pressured into voting for the liberal agenda. Judy and Casper, I'm with Hageman because she's been doing great, and I'm against anyone who endorses killing babies. Paul and Casper says, by the way, Kyle was, I did notice she seemed to be breathing like she was a little bit nervous, which I understand. If you never called into a program like this before, she sounded a bit nervous to me, but I thought she did, great, just fine. All right, 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. There's where I get, in freedom and liberty, because I hear that right now as the Democrats are having their convention. They talk a lot about freedom. Free people, freedom, liberty. Kamala Harris has talked about getting rid of private health insurance and having a single payer or basically universal health coverage like they do in Canada, like they do in the UK. That's not freedom. In a free country, I get to make my choice. If I want to buy insurance, I'll buy it. If I don't, if I want to provide my health care through a different way, like a savings account, I'll do that. Whatever the case is. And I want government out of the process. Because, again, these idiots in government don't know what they're doing. The more they try to fix health care, the worse they make it. As proven with Obamacare, the Unaffordable Care Act. All right. And so many things I can talk. Oh, I talked about this earlier this morning. Kamala Harris wants to take about $25,000 per household for lower income households and give it to those households to help them get into a home. Now, again, we don't have the money for this. The nation is already, we say $35 trillion in debt. Is actually much more than that. And we've reached the point where we are borrowing money to pay the interest on the debt. And I blame both Democrats and Republicans for that. But they're both, just when it comes to spending, dear God, we can't keep doing this. So every time I hear any politician say, we're going to spend all of this money to fix this problem. Well, not only do they not know how to fix the problem, I know what's going to happen with most of that money. It's going to disappear into the ether with very little, if anything, getting done. And we wind up massively more in debt. And we can't keep this up. It will crash on us. That's not an if or a might or a maybe. It is going to crash our economy when this debt comes due that we're already well beyond what we can afford. So when I hear all of these great ideas that we're going to spend money on this and spend money on and spend money, we don't have it. And we've been spending money on all sorts of wonderful ideas that have never worked out because, again, our politicians who don't know how to fix anything are trying to fix everything. So that's really what it comes down to me. For me, one of the reasons I can be so calm while talking to people who I completely disagree with is, to me, like with my book, The Uncomplicated Life, I've simplified it in my head. To me, none of this is about left or right. I really don't care. To me, it's more about freedom and liberty as free people in a free country where we get to make our own pathway. If you're having problems, it is your responsibility to solve them. Government's not here to fix your problems, and they don't know how to. They don't even really know what your problems are. If you want to help your neighbor because they're having a hard time, by all means, start a charitable organization and help them. That does good. That I support. That works. But as for your government fixing every little perceived problem that's out there, they don't know what they're doing. And as far as I'm concerned, the Democrats and Republicans are both really bad at it. They have a competition to see who can suck the most at trying to fix the country. They have a competition to see who can suck the most at bringing down our national debt. because they both continue to increase it. Now, neither of them have really fixed anything, have they? And yet they argue about which is the better party. I like to take a look at and try to figure out which party is doing worse, honestly. Coming up on 9:30, local news coming your way after local news update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods is the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about, or you can change the subject. That's fine by me. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Download the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Listen anywhere and chat live with Glenn during the show on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
.36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. So our friend all the way down in Colorado, got several people who listen, quite a few people who listen down in Colorado, called complaining about the political ads. This is the last time I will run these until we get to November, so let's get them out of the way since it's primary election day in Wyoming.
Hi, I'm Gil Fulbright. The people who run my campaign, they've made this commercial, and I'm in it. This campaign, it's not about me. It's about crafting a version of me that'll appeal to you. A version that visits random work sites with paid actors pointing at things. A version of me that doesn't find old people loathsome or pointless. Has a conventionally attractive yet curiously still family. Listening to my constituents, legislating, these are things I don't do. What I do is spend about 70% of my time raising funds for re-election. I'd do anything to stay in office. My name's Gil Fulbright, but hell, I'll change my name to Phil Goldbright or Bill Fulbright or fill up my mouth with farts. These are the things that are important to me. And these are the fine people that finance my campaign. Now, in order to do these things, I have to stay in office. And to stay in office, I have to keep these guys happy. Now, if any of these things make these guys unhappy, well, my hands are tied. So come November, the choice is clear. Do you want another spineless mouthpiece for special interest in lobbyists? Or a spineless mouthpiece for special interest in lobbyists? I'm filling my mouth with farts, and I approve this message.
See, if only we had more honesty like that. Well, or for that matter, what about this one? A true ad with an honest politician that's telling you exactly what
my name is Carl, and I'm running for Congress in your district. I'm not an expert in anything. Nothing. Not a thing. But I sure know how to look like I know what I'm talking about, and that's why I'm electable. I'm not an expert on guns, or finance, or science. Heck, I flunked science in school 3 times. I know nothing about automobiles or engines of any kind. I know nothing about energy, gas, coal, oil, green energy, whatever that means. I've never held a gun in my life, and actually I'm kind of scared to. But if you elect me into office, I promise to pass laws regulating everything that I know nothing about. I promise to act like the expert that I never really could be, because I cannot pass the test to get a job in that field to save my life. But I can regulate it. Yes, that's what America needs today. Experts in nothing to regulate everything. After all, isn't that what government does best?
There you go. This is why I'm opposed to when I ask a candidate, what do you want to accomplish? And they give me a long list of things that they would like to accomplish and how they plan to get it done. I know not to vote for them because they're not an expert in any of the things that they're talking about. Therefore, they're not going to accomplish any of these things. Now, using that same guy, that was the voice of the Dan. The Dan lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I asked him if I could hook him up to a political lie detector.
We hooked this average politician up to a lie detector so we could discern exactly when he was lying and when he was telling the truth.
Good morning.
Ooh, off to a bad start.
I'm happy to be here.
Really? Can't even tell the truth about that, huh?
Your government is hard at work.
Ooh, not doing well, are we?
We have solved many problems.
Come on, just tell the truth once.
Care about your well-being.
I don't think he has it in him. Telling the truth, I mean.
We will take responsible steps.
Come on now, this is for all the money.
Well, we want to solve these problems.
We have faith in you. Well, no, we don't.
Because the last administration...
Ooh, swing and a miss.
I promise I will...
I'm thinking this is not going to end well.
Oh, I promise I will. Come on.
And there you have it. A perfect score.
Now, back to our friend in Colorado. That was a very good phone call about how he's just really, it's given him a headache and other emotional issues listening to all these political ads. Let's take an honest look about, well, what political ads are really like and how they're done.
This election, your choice couldn't be more important. Our candidate is in flattering lighting and full bright color. Their candidate is in grainy high contrast black and white, spotted through a telephoto lens from behind a bush, coming back from God only knows where. Our guy points at the horizon and holds a baby. Their guy doesn't have a baby. Their guy has a golf club. The voiceover for our guy is calm, measured, bright. Their guy gets the lower register, and sometimes we slow down. Our guy has clean headlines and the beautiful lens flare America needs. Here's a scary graph over a photo of their guy awkwardly laughing. Snap zoom. Do you want a snap zoom like that in office? Here's a photo of our guy saluting military veterans. Jump cuts, flashes, static, aggressive colors. You can't trust a guy with graphics like this. Our guy gets stock footage of sunrises and an American flag. Their guy's flag is upside down and on fire, intercut with overdue bills, war, and a crying baby. Our guy gets doctors and astronauts and stimulus checks. Flatline, an eagle, hurricane, the Statue of Liberty, crime scene tape, Ronald Reagan, a girl running in a wheat field to escape a dangerous sexual predator, welding, atomic bomb. This election, the choice is yours. Their guy or our guy. Inspiring slogan.
Before I go for the day, I just got to play this one more thing. And then we're done until near election time in November. I'm just going to put this file away for a while because I know you're probably sick of hearing it. And it has to do with today's Stay Out the Vote campaign. Have you voted yet? Okay, if you're in Wyoming, this is primary day. If you're going to go vote, I just ask one thing. Everybody has the right to vote. But did you do your homework? That's why I don't have a Get Out the Vote campaign. For the low information voter, I have a Stay Out the Vote campaign.
Darling, would you fetch me a beer out of the fridge?
So, I know everything about the Kardashians, Beyonce, and stuff like that. But I know nothing about who my governor is or whoever runs the state. So this year I'm doing my patriotic duty and stay out the vote.
Thank you, darling. I can give you every major stat for the Rockies for the last 15 years, but I can't tell you who the mayor of Denver is. That's the reason why this year I'm doing my patriotic duty and stay out the vote.
Too lazy to stay informed? Then stay home. Stay out the vote. Your country is counting on you.
Admit it. You were hoping somebody would say that. Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
9:49 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off I go to talk to David Settle, who's filling in for Frank Gambino. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you, and at first you're going to be very suspicious. All right, Dave?
All right, let's go.
Okay. The sign says, we can shoot your wife and frame your mother-in-law if you want. We can hang them, too. It's an ad for Photo Express, photos and framing.
I was going to say, this is some sort of photography business.
Exactly right.
It is so misleading. It is absolutely hysterical.
Yes, exactly. Which is why I'm glad when they have the sign up there. It says above Photo Express, imaging and photo solutions. Then it says that.
Okay.
Yeah, but in my case, though, it's funnier if I don't tell you who it is
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because they can certainly shoot your wife and frame your mother-in-law. Who doesn't want to do that and hang them too? Don't you hang them first and then shoot them?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Don't they take care of each other?
I kind of think it would. See, I would hang them. And then if I have to, now it depends. Are we talking about photography or are we talking about murder?
Well, we're talking about photography.
Okay.
So
if we're talking about, I would have to shoot them first if we're talking photography. So if I do it the other way around, then I'm talking murder. Okay.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a good thing. All right. Thank you very much, Glenn. Well, there are a lot of changes coming around in high school fall sports and practice for things like volleyball, girls swimming and diving, cross country got underway yesterday. The other 4 classes for football. So everything's underway, at least with practice. The only sports that have had actual official competitions have been golf and tennis. But there are some new looks. Things like Evanston and Riverton now in 4A in golf and cross country, where they've been in 3A the last few years. Glen Rock has moved up to 3A in both golf and cross country now. Girls swimming and diving, now 14 teams in Class 4A as Evanston, Green River, and Riverton have moved up. You've got new enrollment cut lines, and this was approved by the Wyoming High School Activities Association last year. And so they spent the last calendar year kind of navigating this and rearranging schools and different conferences, things like this. The big one for fall sports that changes a lot is volleyball. There are different schools now in different classifications. For 4A, both Casper high schools are now back in the same conference, and they're now in the West. You've got Cody in 3A, Burns moves back to 3A, Moorcroft, Thermopolis in 2A, Lingle, Lusk, St. Stephen's, and now Fort Washakie all playing 1A volleyball. So the smallest division of high school volleyball now has 23 schools in it. And each of these conferences looks a little different. For example, 4A, the West has 8 teams in it. So they decided to divide themselves into 2 14 quadrants with Kelly Walsh, Natrona, Green River, and Rock Springs in one, Jackson, Star Valley, Evanston, and Riverton in another. And just the matches against the 3 other teams in your quadrant will count as conference matches. By contrast, the East is 1 7-team conference, and everybody will play a home and away series against each other. And so you've got different ways to get to the regional volleyball tournaments, which are still double elimination. Another different one is the 2A East, where you've got 5 schools up in the northeast part of the state and then Pine Bluffs in the southeast. And so they're going to use a points rating system for this year. And it's based upon what type of team you beat. What classification are they? Do you play a team in the state or out of the state? Things like that. And you earn points based upon your victories. And then it's kind of divided by your total matches. So you get a rating, and they'll update those ratings on a weekly basis. So a lot of different things to kind of digest for the high school fall sports season for Wyoming high school sports fans. And we'll have the breakdown up shortly for you at wyopreps.com and on the WyoPreps app. It is a lengthy story, but something that hopefully fans will need to read thoroughly to get themselves ready to go, because, again, there are schools in different classifications and different quadrants have changed in some of the different classifications. So a lot of different changes for the fall sports at the high school level. Now, again, the official competitions for volleyball, cross country, football, and girls swimming and diving don't begin until the end of next week, but it will be a busy stretch once we hit next weekend. Not this upcoming weekend, but the weekend of the 29th through the 31st. And one final sports note, the Rockies back in action today after a day off Monday. They start a road trip on the East Coast. They're in Washington, D.C. to play the Nationals. First pitch is scheduled for 4:40 Mountain Time, and that is your sports today.
And you are on the road.
I am on the road here shortly, and Frank, I believe, is off still tomorrow. He'll be back on Thursday, so you'll have a little time to fill.
Don't worry. Boy, the stuff that I play when you two are gone.
Oh, well, I've heard some of it.
Yeah, so. Okay. So, hey, thanks for filling in. Appreciate it.
No problem. Take care, Glenn.
Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. And your weather forecast. Wake Up Wyoming.